Hey there, everyone. So, moving forward in our quest to learn more about emotional intelligence, um, we're going to go into the four pillars of emotional intelligence. So, you're in this group, Emotional Intelligence, a support group for stress and anxiety. I am Mia Juliana. I am a health coach, and what my work capsizes on is working with professionals to help them relieve stress and overcome anxiety so that they have a work life balance. I teach those principles through emotional intelligence and habit change. So, what I'm going to introduce you to today is simply um, information about emotional intelligence, but it is definitely going to be kind of the brevity version of it because I could go an hour or two talking to you about all the different points of emotional intelligence that help career professionals be more successful in their jobs and be able to create that work life balance. They can go home, leave work behind, and actually focus on their relationships at home. Um, but today, what we're going to discuss is one of the four core pillars, and that is self awareness. So, self awareness is going to be understanding your own attitude in the moment. And you know, that word attitude tends to have a negative connotation, but what I want you to understand is that in this moment, what attitude means is your reaction or how you respond is a better way to put it. So if you're able to respond in a way that is going to be beneficial to you and those around you, then you are emotionally intelligent. If you are going to respond in a way that's going to make others feel inferior or make you the know-it-all and the boss and the leader and you know the buck stops with you type of a situation, then you are the least emotionally intelligent. So when you are self aware, you're going to be able to know why you do the things that you do and what does it take to satisfy you. And knowing why you do the things that you do is going to be the first step because you can approach those triggers that may make you angry or may make you stressed out or may make you anxious or overwhelmed or burnt out. And you can then learn, okay, so that's why I become so exhausted, or that's why I'm so overwhelmed, is because of X, Y, and Z trigger. But then you have to learn what does it take to satisfy you to make you feel better and not just live in the moment of that trigger. Approach the trigger, deal with it, and let's figure out what's going to bring me back to that place of joy, right? So, knowing what it's going to take to satisfy you is going to be huge. Is it going to be okay? I'm super overwhelmed. If I have a timeline of how to get this stuff done, or at least get half of these tasks done by Tuesday for work, then I have that checklist and that makes me feel good. I'm satisfied. And then on Tuesday, I can work on getting more things done on the checklist and getting to that 80-90% level of completion of tasks by Thursday. So then by Friday, I really just have to kind of recap and make sure everything was done. I'm 10%, my last 10% is complete, and I can go into the weekend knowing that my job has been successfully completed. I feel good. I'm not as overwhelmed, you know, things like that. So, knowing kind of where are you, what's your attitude in the moment when you're approached with certain deadlines or tasks, or even when you're approached with certain situations at home. And when you have that attitude, is it an attitude of joy, contentment, sadness, sorrow, overwhelm, burnt out, stress, whatever it is, then you're going to make sure that you know what that trigger is that's making you feel that way and figure out how to make sure that you're satisfied on the tail end of that. So, some of the strategies for self awareness are really focusing on the now. Okay. A lot of times, and me myself, I'm guilty of this in um, work and home life. Thinking of things that happened in the past and telling myself this whole story of something that happened in the past and how it's happening now and how it's going to keep happening in the future, right? Um, but really dealing with the now is when you're emotionally intelligent. So gaining that experience and that knowledge, I now know, okay, if I know that this is what I'm feeling right now, I know how to approach the situation right now. And honestly, the better that you get at doing that, focusing on the now, focusing on what my response is right now, then you'll be able to know how to move through that, how to manage that, and how to become better at being the more of the positive influence. And it'll become more second nature to you the more and more and more that you focus on the now versus what could happen in the future, what could be, or what already was. Focus on the now. So, the emotional feelings that you tend to feel are more hopeful. Your physical body. This is huge for me because I'm a person that typically in my neck area is where a lot of stress happens. I'm also a mother of children that all nursed, and I used to do this a lot. So I have to be conscious of taking that stress down and not letting it affect my neck area or my shoulder area. So when you're in that healthy state of, I'm dealing with it now and I'm going to move forward in how I feel with this and manage this properly, you're more relaxed. And of course, if you're not in that state of mind, you would be like how I was: the shoulders up, more tension in the neck, more tension in the shoulders, shortness of breath, and you can even get like headaches and things of that nature the more that you take on, and that is the stress. So, what this tactic is telling you is when you are more self aware, you can feel how your body is reacting to certain things and learn how to be a responder so that the stress levels can lower. Another good thing about being self aware that a lot of us, me included, were not taught growing up is not to label your feelings. So, there are things that happen to us, and we may have been taught that it's not good to get angry. It's not good to be frustrated. It's not good to be irritated. It's not good to be sensitive. So those are bad things, right? No, they're really not. Um, all of those feelings are valid. Let me just pause. I'll say that again. All of those feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. Okay. So retrain your brain to know that if I have these feelings, I'm not going to put a label on them. Instead, I'm going to acknowledge them, I'm going to move through them, and we're going to learn from that experience, right? So moving through that simply means I know that this situation is so frustrating and it has triggered me, but I'm going to move through this. I'm going to breathe it out. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to go get a breath of fresh air. I'm going to drink some water. Like, whatever it is you need to do. Um, when I first got into learning more about myself and more health and wellness as an adult, one of the ways that I acknowledged my feelings or released feelings was kickboxing. I did kickboxing, and I also I trained in boxing for about half a year. And those were great stress relievers for me because any tension that built up or any emotions that I was feeling at work, I was a paralegal at the time, um, I could get that stuff out, and that stress would lower, that cortisol stress response would lower in my body. And it just felt so amazing thereafter. So, not just the endorphins of working out, but the endorphins of, whew, okay, my mental state is now better. But another tactic that a lot of people use as far as being self aware is keeping a journal. If you are great at handwriting a journal, then I say move forward in that. I tend to be a person that is better at keeping an audio recorded journal. There are tons of apps you can get for your phone to do that. If you want to be like me and simply sit in front of a video camera and record how you're feeling, you can do that as well. But this can this can really be helpful in helping you take note of what your emotions are and what those circumstances were that led up to those emotions. And then you can kind of have a track record to see what are those triggers versus keeping everything in your head, because there's already so much going on with us that it's easier when we have something to give us a track record as to why we feel the way we feel and when we feel that way, right? So, um, the last 2 points on being self-aware are acknowledging that you'll have some up moods and some down moods. You know, not a bad thing. I'm going to change those words there instead of good and bad, up and down. So really just kind of lean into those and make them your own, because it's unique to you how you're interacting or how you're responding to whatever situation has now triggered you. And trigger doesn't have to be a negative connotation. It could be that you got, a raise at work and you were triggered to be happy and joyful, like whatever the case may be. Whenever you have an up mood, lean into that and roll with that. Keep going with that and stay in that joy. Whenever you have a down mood, recognize it, acknowledge it, and lean into that and say, okay, I am feeling X, Y, and Z. I'm sad. I'm down. I'm disappointed, or whatever the case may be. And then lean into finding out what is making you feel that way. Okay? Why are you feeling this way in this moment? And how can we maneuver through that? Right? Um, but a good one that is I would say a challenging one for most of us to embark upon is asking others how you deal with emotions. So you may get a plethora of different answers, um, but being able to accept the criticism or accept the good feedback, everything doesn't have to be negative, but in our minds, we are kind of programmed to think, oh, if I ask other people, they're going to tell me all the stuff I do wrong. Who knows? I don't know. You don't know. You don't know until you ask, right? So once you ask others how you deal with those emotions, I would go right back up to number 3 and I would keep a journal and say, okay, on X, Y, and Z day, I asked Becky how I felt about or how I dealt with my emotions when it came to the fact that we went to lunch and um, I ended up paying the bill for both of us, or whatever the case was. Um, ask her how I dealt with my emotions in that situation, and just move forward and keeping a journal of that and knowing what your emotions are. So, those are my top tips for being more self aware in your emotional intelligence journey. And if you would like to learn more, then of course, subscribe and click the like button down below. And I also have a mini course that goes into more detail about emotional intelligence. It's more of a masterclass type style, but we do have Q&A there at the end. So if you like more information on that, the link will be down below. And I look forward to bringing you all more great content on emotional intelligence, emotional health, stress relief, and overcoming anxiety. Bye for now.